All right, you guys are good to go.
Thank you very much. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Design Review Subcommittee, Wednesday, February 10th, 2021 to order. And David, do you have your applicant here tonight?
I should have 3 showing up, but so far I see none.
So far, none?
So far, none. But I am expecting 3. Oh, there you go. We have Tom O'Donnell.
Okay. Since this is the first time we have heard this one, I'll go ahead and read the purpose of the subcommittee is to provide direction, insight, concerns, and options to the applicant on how the project can best comply with the city's design guidelines and policies. The subcommittee is not an approving body. They make recommendations to the Planning Commission and Zoning Administrator regarding a project's compliance with city design guidelines. Each of the subcommittee members will provide input and suggest recommendations to the applicant based on written city design guidelines and/or policies. The subcommittee will not design the project for the applicant, nor will the members always agree on the best course of action. The applicant can then assess the input and incorporate any changes accordingly, with the understanding that the subcommittee is strictly a recommending body. We have some minutes to approve, and I believe Michael's here now. Is his audio working?
I hope so.
Okay.
Could you please mute? Press *6.
That may be Tom O'Donnell, I think. The only one.
Let me see if I can unmute it. Sure. I can't. I'll just go on phone.
Have you connected twice?
I'm off of it right now. I'll leave the meeting and stay on phone.
There we go. Okay. We have the minutes from the January 27th, 2020 meeting to approve. Do we have any comments from either of the 2 other commissioners?
Chair, I have a minor comment on page 2 on the first bullet item at the top. Stated that light fixtures shown on the elevations should be coordinated with site electrical plan. I don't remember there's an electrical plan. Maybe we just strike electrical out.
Okay. Is that the only change?
Then for the third bullet item, the last 2 words, rafter tail, the rafter is misspelled.
Okay, we can definitely make those changes.
Okay, Michael, do you have any changes? Or is this Michael Luna on there rather than Michael Blackwell?
Michael Luna is here.
Hello, Michael.
How you
Well, I don't
been? How you
hear
been,
Michael
Bart?
Blackwell. Okay, I have some changes, and we don't have Katie here. Do we have Katie? Oh, Katie.
We do have Katie on the line.
Yes, I have some corrections that I'd like made to the minutes. I was very careful on this item that when we made a recommendation, we queried the applicant whether or not they agreed and would incorporate those recommendations. And the purpose for that was to have it in the minutes. So when the minutes are read by the public or any other body in the city, that they understand that in the meeting, the applicant did agree to those conditions. Rather than going through each one, I think maybe just a blanket statement at this point that all recommendations that were agreed to by the applicant will be identified in the minutes. Would you agree with that, Katie? Or Stephanie, can you agree for her?
Yeah, we can certainly add that statement. That's a great point because that was something that was specifically discussed at the last meeting, and it's a great point to reflect that in the minutes as well. So we can certainly add that statement. I'm seeing that there is enough room on that page to add just that blanket statement so that you can go ahead and still sign off on the minutes if you feel comfortable doing that.
Okay, I'll put a, see, on the ones I'm signing, I will put a note on the document that says we discussed it in the meeting and that will be incorporated.
Okay,
And I'd
sure.
be comfortable with that.
Yeah, and for future
It
minutes.
doesn't change the meanings of them. It just shows that the applicant concurred.
Right, yes. And thank you for that note, because that's certainly something that we want to carry over in future minutes.
Yes. Okay. Then Jen, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the City of San Clemente minutes of the regular meeting of the Design Review Subcommittee of January 27, 2021 as modified.
Is Michael still offline here? Apparently so. Okay, I will second the motion. Jen, your vote?
Aye.
I will also say aye, so it passes 2-0. The next item is architectural review of the following items. Item A, which is the first one, minor architectural permit 2220, SC Ranch Market remodel 101 West El Camino Portal. And David Carrillo is the planner on this one.
Good afternoon. Tara, can you get the presentation up in PowerPoint?
Yes, just 1 second.
Yeah. I want to share that we do have my 3 applicants here, Peter, Tom, and Don. You'll have some comments to share.
Is Tom there? This is Don. I don't know.
Don, I'm here.
Okay.
Hello, Peter's here as well.
All right, Tara, can you go to the next slide? So the project is located at 101 West El Portal. It's in the neighborhood commercial 1.2 zone, and in 2 overlay districts. We have the affordable housing and coastal zone. It is in the coastal exclusion area, so it won't be subject to a coastal commission approval. The site is surrounded by commercial and residential uses, and just up the street from Maxburg Park, as you can see there at the bottom left of the image. It's also just outside the Spanish architecture required area on North El Camino Real. Next slide. So existing conditions, there's currently a 2-story commercial building. We have a market on the 1st floor, an office on the 2nd floor, as well as a tattoo shop on the 2nd floor. The architecture currently consists of flat roofs, a horizontal orientation, siding in the beige there that you see, and some stucco. Next slide. 2 notable elements on the site. We have a detached trash enclosure that's accessible via the alley, and I'll have a recommendation on that further in the presentation. And then we have a parking lot light pole that I also do mention in the recommendation portion of the staff reports. There's currently a open code case regarding light glare and impacts to neighboring properties. So part of the recommendation is that the applicant consider replacing the light pole with something that's more compatible with the changes that will be done to the building. Or if they don't consider that staff will still be requesting that they modify the light pole to comply with lighting standards, which are to have lighting shielded and directed downwards to the ground. Next slide. So the proposal includes a whole facade remodel that I'll show in the elevation drawings upcoming right now. We have a storage addition, an attached patio cover, a detached patio cover that'll accommodate a new outdoor display area, a cart corral, and a new block wall and gates. Next slide. So here's a site plan. Tried to add some color to make it a little bit more fun. So we have the storage addition in the orange down on the left. We have the new block wall and gates shown in the red dashed line, also right next to the storage addition. The attached patio cover is up on the top, shown in the red, and the cart corral in the green area. And I'll have the applicant later on talk about a little bit more about the current situation with carts at the site, but per staff observations, we have not seen carts right now. So it looks like the cart corral will accommodate new carts that will be provided for customers to use. At the right of the site, we see the blue square that's representing the detached patio cover for the outdoor display area. And again, that'll be used for flowers and plants that they currently use or sell. So on this item, staff did consult with the traffic engineer. We were concerned with the vehicle entry and exit pretty close to that area and pedestrian safety. So the traffic engineer reviewed it and they supported the use of speed bumps and a crosswalk that would discourage vehicles coming in at higher speeds. And the applicant agreed to that, and they added that to the site plan. Next slide. So here's the front elevation. To the far left, we see the new outdoor display area. The attached patio cover in the center, it's slightly called out and some lines are at the bottom. We have a corrugated metal parapet that will be screening rooftop equipment. So right now there is some rooftop equipment right above where you see the coffee and ice cream casino letters. It's not screened, so this is an improvement that staff appreciated. So that's not visible anymore. The mural and the signage that's visible, that'll be reviewed by staff at the administrative level under a separate permit as well. Next slide. So to the far left, we have the new block wall and gates, and next to that would be the storage addition. We have the corral to the right of the storage addition, right below the new SC Market sign. Again, that will be reviewed administratively. And the outdoor display area where you see the hip roof patio cover. And they are proposing new vegetation outside bordering the outdoor display area as well. Next slide. And here's the south elevation. This is a view from the parking lot. Again, to the right is the outdoor display area, and we see the storage addition to the far left. Next slide. And this will be the west elevation that is adjacent to a vacant lot. There is a palm tree that's not shown here, but that palm tree would cover, I'd say, most of that wall, the blank wall right there. So overall, the majority of the project is consistent with design guidelines and general plan policies. Staff believes that articulation on the building will be improved with the use of different materials and colors. You know, we have the stucco, the siding, corrugated metal. Height variations are maintained. We also believe that scale and mass will remain compatible with the neighborhood. So there are some staff recommendations. Next slide, Sarah. So we have four. The first one is to update the parking parking lot light pole to something that's a little bit more compatible with the proposed architecture. And again, we will be requesting that the applicant update or make modifications to comply with lighting standards. We're also recommending that they submit a preliminary landscape plan to include landscaping throughout the parking lot as well. Currently, there are some planter areas that are lacking some landscaping, mainly all dirt. So staff is recommending that they consider that as well. And then we're recommending that the trash enclosure also be remodeled to match the improvements on the primary building as well. And that is in reaction to general plan policies and design guidelines that encourage that accessory structures match the architecture of primary buildings. And then lastly, we are recommending that they remove unpermitted advertisements on windows. And let's see. And lastly, on the corrugated metal side of this, we are asking for direct feedback from the DRSC on the use of that surrounding the outdoor display area. Staff is not opposed to it. It is a unique design, and we would like to get some specific feedback on that use of corrugated metal fencing around that outdoor display area. So that concludes my presentation, and we do have Tom, Peter, and Don available for any questions.
Would the applicant and his team like to make any comments before we get started?
Oh, this is Tom O'Donnell, and I'm assuming you can hear me. The only thing that I want to address is the light pole. I talked to David prior to. We're in an area of gang influence. Our sheriff's department has been kind enough to patrol the site pretty regularly in the evening time. The lighting is important. It shuts off around, I think, an hour after the store is closed, and the store, depending on the season, goes to about 9 or 9:30. So let's say it's closed at 10:30. The only location would be the property next door, the little triplex there, and it would be the upper unit that would have a concern. And the odd thing is he's always contacting us because of the gang guys that were influenced. We changed the bulbs so that there would be better exposure, we'll say light and visual. The police liked it because they weren't gravitating in the far corner, and they weren't staying there till 12 o'clock. So there's a discouragement. Plus, we have a second phase that we will get to after we clean this place up, and we were going to change out the whole light. So we don't want to do it now. It'd be counterproductive. So if we can work around that, we would really appreciate it.
Anyone else from the project team?
Peter here. I'm here available for any questions, and I'm sad to see that my renderings didn't get included in the presentation. That's all.
I guess we certainly have the colored elevations in our packets.
Yep, I actually included some perspective renderings. That's all.
I'm disappointed we didn't receive them also. Anyone else from the project team?
Pretty much just backing up. This is Don Kroll, and I'm pretty much just backing up what said on the light, because we have a future plan, and it would be better to do that in the future if we could. And the lights were changed to mediate the glare, so it was more focused. That's about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I do have one other comment, and just that with the corrugated metal fencing, is that we were trying to tie that element into the added corrugated parapet and the corral, and then also where the new signage is going facing the alley. That's all corrugated metal as well. Trying to keep the palette of materials consistent with the exterior remodel.
Okay. Jen, do you have any questions for the applicant's team or staff?
Just a few simple questions. When I stand on El Porto, especially on the other side, I see the rooftop equipment. Just want to make sure the corrugated material, the new parapet is tall enough to shield this. Can you confirm?
Yes, that is the plan, to make it tall enough to keep the visual from the street, so you don't see it anymore.
And also, thank you. And also, the site has more than enough parking space to, this question is for the applicant or the operator. Do you have a full parking lot?
What do you mean by a full parking lot? What's clarifying?
Do you really need that many parking spaces?
Do I need that many parking spaces? Is that your question?
Right.
Well,
I can answer.
any business. Okay, Peter, you go ahead.
Well, yeah, we are overparked per your standards. As Tom mentioned, we're going to have a second phase with this project of improvement and probably add some more square footage to it. So that's coming in the future, but that we'll work with the amount of parking we have just to make sure we're not maxed out. But we are going to make better use of the property in the future with a second phase project.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me kind of explain from a owner of a property, does development, and we parking is the key in this world. Trader Joe's was looking at our site because they want to move out of the site that they're up, as you guys know where they're at, because that is the issue. We could not accommodate Trader Joe's guidelines, and the existing store has just spent $250,000 expansion. They're just doing unbelievable, and one of the big pluses for them and why they want to continue to stay there is parking. Clients come in, and so that's a big plus that this site has, and it services the neighborhood. It's your zoning works well with it for the neighborhood, and so and our expansion that Peter's played with, we're not going to do much. It's not another big building. It's actually a small decorative, and it's more to play. As I said, the negative that we have is, and the police have been so good on the little gang issues, and what they've been patrolling, that it has dropped. The graffiti has dropped probably to about 20% of what it used to be. The little skateboarders and the local gang, it's way down. So all we want to do is make the building look nice like the existing tenant that has done on his interior. And then when we expand, we'll make it even more secure and a very nice visual for the community, we feel.
Okay, thank you. Well, I asked this question because of the quality improvement that you proposed, and the city engineer's recommendation to add speed bumps across the entry driveway. And I just wonder if you would be, if it's palatable for you to shift the parking lot entry off the alley. That way you can have all the, your parking lot will be more efficient. And you can. Well,
but the negative with that, at this moment in time, we've got grade, you've got disability issues. We did this initial remodel a few years ago, and we'd rather not go through that again. We've also talked to our existing tenant, what's important to him, and how his business, how his clientele come in. I see where you're coming at, but we may do that on the second phase. But for right now, and second phase is all subject to financing. And if you're in the financing world, it's not a fun thing to try to do right now for projects because of COVID. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, did Michael ever join us? Okay, it looks like it's you and me, Jen. I'm going to save my comments for discussion. So let's go ahead and close the presentation portion and open it up for public comment. And David, did you receive any public comment regarding this particular project?
No public comments.
Okay, very good. We will close the public comment and open it for discussion. And I'll jump in, Jen, since I didn't talk in the previous one. And after going through the application and presentation by David and yourselves, I want to have a discussion about the concerns that the city has in their ordinances regarding a minor gateway and this quality of materials issue. Looks like staff is looking for some guidance. And I actually did a lot of research this last weekend on the use of the corrugated materials. And I've used it in projects myself. I'm an architect, and I've used Core 10 corrugated roofing for ranch style golf course clubhouses and some themed restaurants, etc. So I understand the use of it and where it belongs and where I use it. But going through a number of documents that I will provide to David. One is actually a thesis by a senior at University of Pennsylvania. There's another one, buildingconservation.com has reviews on the use of corrugated materials and so forth, and also just a Wikipedia one on corrugated galvanized iron. And I won't spend a lot of time on this. They all indicate that, you know, the typical use of it was salvaged in some cases for the tropical islands and all. When wars were over, there was a lot of corrugated materials, so they did tropical style architecture. They were used on farms, they were used in factories. Architects have experimented with it and done all styles of buildings with it. But in all cases, they indicate that it is an inexpensive material, and that's what the appearance is. But it is used. So I don't want it to be my personal likes and dislikes, because it's not. So if that is a valid evaluation of the material, I don't think that eliminates it from being used, but I think it indicates that in the spirit of the vision sanctimony, the general plan, and the ordinances and design guidelines, that it needs to be used sparingly. So I have a concern that from El Camino, we're building, we've got a view, and unfortunately we have to put a blind eye to the car dealership on the corner and ignore that. But I want to get Jen's comments on this also. That I'm first going to just address the gazebo. The gazebo is a nice quality prefab gazebo. It appears to have a standing seam roof on it, metal roof, but there's fences and walls that are corrugated iron around the whole space, as shown on the site plan. I see on the renderings of the flat elevations, the height looks higher than what's called out on the site plan. I think you're, say, 42 inches. It looks like it's 6 foot or something on the elevations. And I'm questioning that we're imposing that product at the most visible corner. I understand trying to tie it into the building, but I don't know if that's, you've got more building without corrugated iron than with, and you're using more there pretty much than on the building. So I'm thinking that that may not be the appropriate place to use that much corrugated iron along with a standing seam roof or whatever. Jen, what do you think about that thought?
Well, it's a tough call because I wish this was a architectural overlay zone. It's the name suggests it's El Porto. It's a gateway, right? It's a minor gateway into a park which has a historical importance for the master plan of San Clemente Plaza Park. Now it's Max Burger Plaza Park. And every Spanish colonial city I visited in Latin America, Spain, they have a public plaza surrounded by streets on 4 sides or sometimes 3 sides. This is the only occasion in San Clemente, but it's not in general plan. It's not in architectural overlay zone. I wish El Porto is aligned with a mixed use zone instead of a neighborhood commercial. But I have to deal with what it is now, and it's just outside of architectural overlay. So I don't feel it's appropriate to demand the client the applicant to try to get as much closer to Spanish colonial architecture. While this building is not Spanish colonial at all, anyway. But in terms of the corrugated metal sheet fence, now the photo shows that they have wood post and a rail on top. So with that combination, I would say it's acceptable for me.
Okay, I think we're going to be under 2 opinions on that, but that's fine. I'm particularly concerned about just that one location because it's spotty. It's just used spottily on the building in a number of locations. And the code says it needs to be quality material. So the question we've got that, and this is going back to, I think, zoning administrator, David, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
That they're looking for guidance that we're not asking them to be Spanish colonial revival. They're asking them to be good architecture. Not necessarily, I mean, and it can be done well. And I don't think that putting that on the corner at a minor gateway is good architecture. It's architecture, but I don't think it represents what the intent was of the guidelines. Like I say, I've used the project myself, the product myself, and I just think that particular location is stretching and probably setting a little bit of an example that, hey, going into Los Molinos, yeah, absolutely. Using corrugated in Los Molinos district, absolutely. Using it in South El Camino Real, in the surf zone, yeah, it can be representing the architecture. Unfortunately, we don't have an architectural style here. But
Yeah,
that's the hardest part for the architect to do is there is no style to this building and we're just compounding it a little bit.
Got a question. How tall is the fence around the gazebo?
Well,
36?
it's mislabeled. The front is 42 inches, but Tom had requested that we bring it up to 5 feet on the backside of the gazebo.
What
That was
side is the
only for
backside?
security reasons.
Which side is the backside?
Opposite side, considering El Porto is the front. The back would be by the power pole.
What about on the sides?
It steps up on that side, on the alley.
Sarah, would you mind bringing up the presentation again, just so we can reference it?
Sure.
Can you go?
It'd be that page A21 or 2.1.
And again, unfortunately, if the renderings were
You can
present,
stop
we
right there,
could see
Sarah.
that.
That's a 5 feet from the parking lot.
But you can see it's what we're looking at is they also have it all the way up to the eave in it. There's a looks like an awning or something that hasn't been discussed. So I'm thinking, are they trying to shut it off and be able to lock things up there at night? I don't know. And I'm going to kind of come to the point that we're looking at somewhat of incomplete drawings at this time because we're going through the design process as we talk. But can the applicant address how that fence looks? The fact it almost looks like the gazebo's closed in. What's going on?
Tom? Did Tom disappear?
Yeah, the goal is the gazebo will be able to be locked off completely. It's just going to have sides. 3 of the sides will be able to be lifted up like we'll call it garage door or patio cover. And then at night, because they'll be selling their flowers and pots or whatever, the things that they have in the store that they'd like to put out. And so they can lock it all off. And that was the one reason why on the side facing where the parking is, I wanted a higher wall. The tenant had requested that so that there's better security. People are not, it just makes it a little harder to come in. And if we have to bring it down, we bring it down. This is a request for safety, for security, and for the tenant that's trying to make a living on that corner.
So is that fence just this one wall, or does it return back?
Well, let's just say it starts off in the, there's a power pole. It starts about on that area. In the front area facing the visual area is, I think, and Peter, you correct me, we're keeping that at what, about 42 inches, I think, and that's what the code would allow, if I remember. And then the only facing the parking lot, so the backside, just along that side, it's high. I don't think we wrap around towards the building, do we, Peter? I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me.
Peter just walked away, but I can confirm just by observing the plans that the only high portion up to 5 feet is the rear side facing the parking lot.
Yeah, and that's just because it's facing the parking lot, people coming in. It just the tenant had requested, and plus it makes everything look clean from that angle. And we'll be doing the trash enclosure and making that much better.
Okay, and also the gazebo, I want to make sure it's open structure, right?
No, it's open during the business hours, closed completely at when they close the business or close their retail of whatever they're selling out of that location. Because if I had it open, I can guarantee you I will have homeless there. I will have activity. It will be not. It wouldn't be. So I have to close it.
So I'm looking at the image gazebo privacy wall. So you will have privacy wall all around it during nighttime.
When you say well, the only wall that we'll have is what we proposed, and approximately 42 inches going around let's say 3/4 of it, and then that higher wall that we've been discussing on the one side.
I apologize. I'm talking about the gazebo structure itself, not the fence anymore.
Oh, the gazebo structure itself. What was the question again in regard to the gazebo?
Is it open or is it partially enclosed? Like when I look at the photo, the bottom photo has one side with the privacy wall.
There's an attachment 3.
Okay, and so what you've got on the gazebo, which has four sides, the side facing the parking lot with the big, that will be stationary, never open or close.
Is that wood as shown in this photograph, or is it metal as shown in your rendering?
It'll be whatever you guys want it to be. That
Well, we're not
doesn't
designing
matter to me. Yeah, well, then for right now, it's showing what we've designed, which is the metal.
What about other side of the gazebo?
All the same. It's all going to match, and again, that's for security reasons, because it's got to be totally enclosed, but they will open up. I took this off of a nice project that I saw down in Leucadia, and perfect, and that's what they have in, oh, actually it's Solana Beach, I'm sorry, and down by in a similar location, and they just would come in, the business would come in, open it up, each side, 1, 2, 3, or just do 2 of them if they wanted. And
so when
they have their, yeah.
When you open them up, they operate like
the old
a
garage
roll up
thing.
metal door.
No, not a roll up. It's not going to be a roll up. It will be like a garage door. So now you see it, it's on a hinge, it comes up, and then you post it on so that it's secure, and it becomes a nice little, sun awning, we'll call it. Okay.
It's a one panel. Okay, I get it.
Okay.
I have the rendering up in my camera since I can't do a presentation. Kind of help you with a visual.
Okay. Well, your camera shows a complete open structure.
Well, that's with the doors up, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so one of our problems we have is kind of some incomplete information on these. The fence drawings show, or renderings you show us, are horizontal metal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that what you're proposing?
Yes, David actually had grabbed an example of the fencing, and I didn't realize that fencing was vertical. That was just for his report. He put that in as a sample.
Well, the picture is actually horizontal, but your
Yes.
rendering is vertical.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, I was flipped. We're doing vertical on ours. And by the way, this is going to be powder coated as well. I actually have a house in Campo Beach right now that's being roofed with it.
So at night, and you say they stay open. Well, we don't know when this thing's going to be closed down. So this is what I was concerned about, Jen, is when they close this thing down, we have a box of corrugated steel in this corner.
Yeah, that's right. I understand.
And I'm just thinking, okay, we've got an industrial looking gazebo with a industrial fence around it in this gateway that when we read the guidelines say it's got to be of high quality materials.
Well, the awnings will not be, the closable awnings will not be corrugated metal. Actually, we'll do.
So we have another material.
It's going to be a metal material, but it'll be more matching to the roof. We spent a lot of time talking about the building itself that David and I never discussed any issues that or concerns about the gazebo area to this extent. And I'm sure Tom may be as well, but we're open to changing that.
I'm just concerned, the building itself, as you know, is tough because you've got wood siding that hasn't weathered well. You've got stucco, you've got stone, you've got metal roll-ups. Now we're getting corrugated steel. Now we're getting another kind of steel. We're getting a metal roof on the gazebo. There's no consistency to bring this whole project together other than trying to put some more corrugated metal on the building to try to tie it in. But
Tom, I would be open if we have a metal fencing already on the building. You can see in the existing pictures, we can simply match that. That's going to be painted as well. And the siding is actually being replaced, which is.
Oh, it is? We weren't aware of that.
Yeah, that's actually noted in the legend that there's going to be new lap siding put in place of where the wood is right now, just over it completely to start fresh.
What about all that fencing out front that's in wood, the vertical?
That was proposed to stay, and that we were going to paint it that color showing.
Okay. Okay, let's continue. Go ahead, Jen. Do you have any comments on the building?
On the building, not a lot. I like the idea that we're going to add some bicycle rack here, and this is a building or site that needs some tender and care loving, and I'm happy to see the applicant to propose to make some improvements. And I think as far as for the light fixture, since the code enforcement already has a grasp on that, I prefer to bifurcate it and let the code of enforcement to address it as a separate issue. I think the biggest issue is the shield of the lighting fixture to prevent the light trespassing into neighboring property. I'm less concerned about the style and the character of the light structure. My biggest comment is it's a wish list that the corner would be improved a little better. The applicant suggests that they may do it in the future. I think if we eliminate that driveway apron, well, eliminate that vehicle entry and make the parking lot off the alley, and that would make that whole corner more pedestrian friendly. We can add some landscaping and all the paving there instead of having one painted pedestrian crossing plus two speed bumps. And the applicant can gain back some real estate for their use because the parking lot becomes more efficient. They may end up losing one parking space. If they take that 4 parking spaces next to the alley and then rotate it counterclockwise by 90 degrees and put it there, and suddenly you gain back the entry of the pedestrian use. So right now, we can also, instead of doing a painted pedestrian crossing plus 2 speed bumps, we can do 1 speed table with all the rich pavement. But I think, since the applicant has phase 2 improvement, maybe that can be some of their plan to improve that corner. For the gazebo, I think this corner would be much better if it's all pedestrian and landscaping. And the gazebo, I just like it to see it's more open. I understand the safety concern. They may need to lock it during the nighttime, but right now, the 5-foot fence on the other side, plus the gazebo to be enclosed by solid material during nighttime, when the business is not open. That looks like not as desirable. Perhaps within the door, you can make some opening, like grate type of things, just to open it up. If you just want to, it depends on what you want. If you just want to keep people from entering it, you can do grades and a grills type, a railing type of thing, instead of solid canopy material or garage door material. So that's most of my comments. I may chime in from time to time.
Okay, very good. Let me turn off my phone here.
Hi, Commissioner Crandall.
Yes.
Mike, I apologize to the committee as well as to the applicant for my tardiness. Stuck in traffic. I just could not do this call from the car. So
Able to listen at all to the discussion?
yes, I was, and I tried multiple times to chime in from my phone, and I could hear and see you guys, but I don't think you could hear or see me. Just a couple brief.
That's all right. Well, let me give you the floor for a minute, and from what you have heard, there'll be more discussion, but what direction, our job here is to give direction to the zoning administrator of how to review this. And Jen's had comments, I've had comments, and your turn.
Okay. Well, the comments that I heard from both of you, I think I heard most of what you had to say, especially Commissioner Wu, last statement. I can't help but look at this from a global land use perspective, but I see the degree of intensification here, but I'm going to restrain myself and say that I see there's an improvement to the property. I did go out, I took a look at this, and there's a lot of need just on its face right now. The parking, just the whole property needs some help, and clearly this is going to be contributing to that improvement and beautification. The signage shown in the exhibits, I know we'll look at that at a different time under a sign permit. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not paying attention to the signs, just the lines. And David, when we have this degree of intensification, is that enough basis to start talking about undergrounding the power lines, the wooden pole that's there?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not too sure. That's something I'll have to check in with the Public Works Director.
Okay. And the reason I bring that up, Commissioner Crandall, is because over the years there's been discussion about that, especially in the T zone. I know this is not the T zone, but it is a connecting location between North Beach and the T zone, and there happens to be a pole there that's even shown in some of the elevations. And I thought sure would be a great opportunity to maybe underground another pole. Don't know if that's an undue cost to the applicant. I don't know how we really would put a metric on that, but just want to put that out there.
Do you know the cost for that? Do you know the cost for that? This is Tom.
Well, before we get into the cost, when Cliff Jones was here, he was handling all these alleys and working with the utility company. And it was my understanding that they have a plan in place that the utility company at some point was going to be undergrounding poles when they felt like they could do it.
Right,
And
I talked to them.
that the only cost to the applicants was the drop, replacing the drop. So if staff could check that out and confirm that, that would be wonderful. Michael, you've got the floor again. I didn't mean
to. Okay. Thank you. And I don't want to repeat anybody, but was there discussion on the parking? Did anybody notice the parking?
Just the fact that it's overparked at the moment per our standards.
Okay. And the plant material, was that discussed?
No, not yet. Not at all.
Okay. Well, we'd love to see a plant plan. I don't see one here. And for some reason, I've become the plant guy. Commissioner Wu chimes in occasionally with good input as well. But I'd like to see something that really helps to soften a lot of the hard lines that are part of this design, not to completely hide it, but to soften it. I do see plant material in the elevations, and I don't see a a landscape plan, just a simple one, showing new and existing, what's going to be removed, if anything. I think that would go a long way on this property. In this area is just hungry for some beautification in that regard. Some new plant material would be great.
This is Tom. Can I give you some suggestions? Because we've looked at this 4 times over.
Yeah.
And I've owned this thing for 20 years. Again, I have to be very cognizant for the gang activity. Again, I bring it right back. They will destroy unless, and I've talked with planning, and we were talked about the type of plants, almost cactus type stuff that's going to discourage people going through, walking through. And you've got the homeless I have to deal with that will walk through it. The perimeters going up the alleyway, you will see, if you've been up there recently, you will notice that, and that finally have grown out the sago palms, and they've been perfect for that area. Because now the homeless don't walk through there, they don't sleep by the trash bin, and they don't defecate or drop their clothes and stuff there. So that has been a big blessing. I would love to do, we were thinking of some other things, but really it came out to a certain type of, I see it in Dana Point, how they're by Costco, the center aisle, they'll have the rock, and then they'll put the nice cactus. And if we were going to do that, we were going to probably do it and bring them very close. Of course, it's a maintenance issue on us to keep trimming them, but we were willing to do it because it'll look nice, and you can put different colors, and it flows with hopefully, it flows with the water situation. And but that's where we have to be very cognizant of the issue that we get with the homeless and the gangs.
Yeah, I hear you. And well, that's just part of the design process, identifying the need, what the constraints are to the property, and designing, in this case, with landscape materials that are appropriate. So, drought tolerant plants, or plants that will discourage through traffic. Maybe visually, we don't want to put anything dangerous, especially near the right of way or where kids might be. But you can certainly beautify and soften hard lines, beautify a property with less than lush foliage. You can do and it'd be a good time maybe to engage with a landscape designer, or perhaps an architect that can advise you accordingly. And you could you state what your constraints are, what your objectives are, and you come up with a design that works. It's not everybody's forte, and we don't always see these in design. But this is, I would consider this a significant improvement to the property. And because of that, it's a significant project to me anyway. And I think it warrants the full gamut of attention. You've got great lines here. Some of the materials, I also share same concerns as both commissioners. I think some of the materials could be, thought through and improved. But generally speaking, I like it. I like the lines of it. I think some softening would be appropriate with landscape, and some improved construction materials. I think you might be off to a good start.
Thank you, Michael. I'll chime in again. This is another question to the applicant for discussion. One of the things that will help in evaluating this is the cargo container going away?
That is only because of the grocery store with his expansion needed that. No, that'll go out immediately once we have the storage in the back ready to go, which will take about 30 days to build.
Are you opposed at all to the redoing of the trash enclosure?
No, we intended to do that. Yeah. And again, I need to emphasize, I want to do it so that I can keep the homeless from sneaking in there and sleep. Oh,
Well, I guess what, where I struggle is I see things in the report and then we've got limited drawings, so I can't really tell what's being done and what isn't
okay.
at this point. So as far as the building is concerned, I'm going to disregard the gazebo for a moment. I'm sorry we didn't get the renderings that were done from perspectives to really do this properly. But along El Portal, we say we're just painting and repairing any wood that's damaged on that railing. That's great. We're picking up a mechanical screen. We've got a small portion of corrugated iron above the store portion with signage. Now somewhere I saw a note that there was going to be another cart aisle on the front of the building, or is it just on the other side?
It's on the alley
We get it
facing
all.
elevation.
There's only the one.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And by the way, just people, you are bringing up carts. He does not have any carts in the store. He does not use carts.
But we're doing a cart storage area.
Well, we're enclosing because there's a water machine there out in the front, and we'll probably move them to that so that we could close things off at night instead of having any vandals into the area. So it's there if he ever wanted to go to carts, but right now he doesn't have it. So it's a flexible space. How about that?
Okay. And then on the alley elevation, is that corrugated iron only coming down to it looks like about 6 feet? I'm looking at the elevation east.
Peter, Peter, you did all. I'll let you speak to that.
I'm getting to my elevation.
There's the cart fence or wall or whatever.
Yeah, we have the stone wainscot about 48 inches up.
Okay, so it's just from there up on that one panel. It doesn't
Yes.
wrap the corner.
No,
Okay.
and we're actually extending that piece of wall up about 18 inches as well, just to give more room for the signage.
Okay, it looks like it's 6 inches here on the elevation, but I understand what
I
you're
don't recall. Actually, maybe it was that. To be honest with you, I did these so long ago and haven't looked at
I've been
everything.
there.
Yeah.
I've been there. Okay, very good. And what size members are you using on these trellises? You've got one out in the front that's going to cover the area in front of the ice cream coffee shop space. And then you've got another one on the other side. Of those pretty good sized timbers?
They're 6x6. The tenant is actually doing a separate permit for that since it's his cost. We're just wrapping up this part of it into this set of improvements to get it all improved in one. And then the existing ones, right now there's a split, there's a 6x6 with like two 2x8s on each side. We're gonna actually box that out to make it 8x8 solid. So that, as well, that same detail is at the storefront. We're going to fill in that gap in between the where there's like essentially.
Okay, my comment would be it would be wonderful if the timber construction for those match the timber construction for the gazebo as far as joint sizes, feel, etc.
Exactly, it'll essentially be about the same dimension.
So I would recommend that. Very good. So I totally understand the steel and think it's appropriate quantity and all for the building. But without more detail and information, that whole corner of the gazebo has me concerned.
Can I throw an idea out?
Please.
Because
when I first was discussing this with a pre-planner, Amber, that used to control that area, her and I were brainstorming on, again, she liked the trendiness, the little cutting edge that, and she thought it was conducive for the area. Again, everyone has their own opinions. One of the things, if we didn't, would, again, for security, and I hate to harp on that, but that's probably my biggest concern. I want to make it look nice. I want the building to look nice. I'm tired of it to look like this, and especially now that the tenant's done what he's done. But if I took, let's look what the city of San Clemente has approved at Sea Summit, at the beach trail, that type of a fencing. But I can't allow it for my purposes. I can't have such a space between the metal, because, okay, so now but let's say I cut it. Well, for example, I took pictures of it when her and I were looking at it. When you are going up the stairs to Sea Summit Park up there, they are only about a separation of 4 inches when we measured them. And we go, pretty hard for a person, a human being, to go through that. Now, of course, they could cut it and it would be a pain. But let me throw that idea. It's already an approved product in the city. It's already done. It's visually, you're going to look through it. It's not going to be disruptive. What's your thoughts on that?
I would say that that's one of the tools in your palette. I guess where I'm coming from, and I'll make it, the building itself, I can say to the zoning administrator that I think the quantity of metal is appropriate. In this case, it's being used as an accent only. I'm good with that. So the building,
fair enough,
I can justify. I think more work needs to go on that corner, not just the materials, but landscaping, access, because we're working, like you say, you spent more time on the building than you did this. But and there's so much going on with the cables and the guy wires. We're going to have to work really hard to make that a asset to the city and to you. So I don't think I could, with the information we have at hand today, give a recommendation to the zoning administrator that what we see here is okay. The building, yes. The gazebo, no. But he doesn't have to follow exactly what you say, but my recommendation would be to do that corner a little more detailed. And when he sees it, he can make the judgment call, like he did with this building, that maybe it needs to go back to design review, just looked at. What do you think about that, Mike and Jim?
Yeah, I'm with you, Bart. The gazebo, I'm not going to reiterate. I share the same concerns. I think a different design, different roof line would be better. Question the quality of the materials long term. I happen to know somebody that has this exact gazebo from what looks like the one from Costco, and it's a year old and it's already showing signs. Well, the wind got to it once and did a number on it. Now it was never the same. But anyway, the lines just don't match. Some lighting. I like to see a lighting plan with this particular project. I think that could address a lot of the issues the owner has with security, and really lend to the architectural statement here. And lighting has been proven to reduce crime. The less darkness you have, the lower the more brightness you have, the lower the crime rate. Doesn't mean you have to make a beacon here in the city, but you could do something with, that's consistent with dark skies, guidelines that we do not currently use, but we are definitely attracted to proper lighting design that that doesn't allow for encroachment into neighboring properties and into the sky. But a lot could be done here with minimal landscape improvement and increased lighting. So yeah, I'd like to see this again. Again, not to reiterate everything both commissioners have stated, I share many of the concerns that I have not mentioned here, but I'd love to see this come back one more time.
Okay, that would be at the zoning administrator's prerogative, which I would hope at least the gazebo side comes to us. And I don't know if there's a way they can do that so you can keep moving forward. Maybe Stephanie or David have a recommendation of how that could be done. Jen, do you have any comment?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you, two of you. I think gazebo needs to see a little bit more detail, just more information. When you take a manufactured product and you modify it, it would be nice to see some details and how that works. For example, the gazebo will have, they have some arch, corbel, or support at the top of the post. How does it fit your gate or door? And also the improvement over the trash enclosure. My most concern is about the gate and the cover, and I like to see some drawing. Other than just a simple description. It would be pretty easy because all you need is to match everything. Those are accessible structures, your canopy, gazebo, and the trash enclosures. So to make them consistent, you'll be fine, I think.
Okay, I think we're all in concurrence on that. Stephanie and David, I think we're all in concurrence that, okay, the building itself meets the intent of design guidelines in the code. Not quite so sure on the actual design meeting everything for the gazebo. What's the best way to go forward from here? And I agree with Jen, there should be details, and there's certainly a lot of examples of compliant trash enclosures, so that should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Commissioner Crandall, I put some thought into that and remembered about the Del Mar restaurant project. I don't know if you guys remember that project. Got approved at Planning Commission, and there was a condition that they come back for a second review of the trash enclosure at DRC. So I think we can do something similar at the ZA level. Stephanie, you can jump in. But if you want to, move it forward, if we're okay and support the primary building design, we can probably recommend approval with that condition that the gazebo area come back for DRC review.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would be inappropriate, and I'll let Jen and Michael jump in on this also, to let the zoning administrator determine if the gazebo has to come back after what he sees? Because he did that with the building also. That's how we got this project.
Chair Crandall, if you don't mind me interjecting,
I'm hoping for it.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I would advise going that option, because I think that it creates this perception that we're piecemealing this project, especially since, the gazebo is an integral portion of this minor architectural permit. So I'm not sure if it's the best option to basically defer approval of this gazebo and separate it. I think with the Del Mar restaurant, that was very focused and very unique situation. And I don't think that the intent was to defer that approval, but I think there was very minor, design components of the trash enclosure that just, needed an extra look. So I don't know if that's the best, approach to really model ourselves after.
Okay, what I was trying to avoid is having the whole thing come back to us and re-review the building after we've already blessed it once. So if we can do it where we can word it or understand that, okay, the building has been recommended to go to zoning administrator, but the gazebo hasn't yet. So we would not be re-reviewing the building. That would certainly be best, I think, for the applicant.
And I would,
Any additional review.
yeah, this is Tom. If we could do that, we would be on our knees at least to start. I've got a tenant that is begging to make this thing look decent.
Right.
And because this could hold us back months, and the goal is to have this thing ready to go for his summertime. He wants to have a big splash with it.
Yeah, that's exactly why I don't want to hold anything up.
Certainly. So what I would recommend then is, because I think by, deferring it to a future, DRC meeting, I think it could get a little bit messy. What I would recommend actually is just revising the scope of this minor architectural permit to pull the gazebo out and have it only focus in on the facade remodel. And then we would do a separate permit for this gazebo. I'll have to talk to David offline to figure out what would be the best route of doing that. But I think we can probably take it through a separate track just to keep it cleaner, so that we're not asking the zoning administrator to approve this gazebo, even though the design hasn't been, finalized and approved.
Okay, and I want to make sure we don't incur any additional expenses for the applicant.
Okay, that's duly noted. We can look at that. I'm thinking maybe we could do it as some kind of staff waiver, but I think it would be better just to talk offline about this with David and I, and make sure that our city planner is comfortable with that approach as well. And we're definitely taking the DRC members as well as the applicants' concerns into consideration. So maybe we can
appreciate the zoning administrator forwarding this to us. We are very pleased to be involved in the project.
Yeah.
Does the applicant have any comments regarding this approach?
I don't. Peter, you're the one that does this on a regular basis.
I actually was going to suggest that as well, as we could just take that out to keep the building moving forward.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Don?
Yes, that sounds good to me. Yeah, we want to get this moving, and that would be the easiest way to do it, I think.
Okay, very good. Michael, I see you're unmuted.
Yes, thinking, yes, I'm totally on board with that. I think it's a great idea to keep things moving for the applicant.
Would you agree, Jen?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations on getting the building moving, and now you'll have a little time to spend on kind of the stepsister over there on the corner. Wrap that thing up.
No, I appreciate your feedback on that, and we'll put our heads together and come up with some cost-effective pluses. And make it work.
And that it might be a fun little exercise. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The next item is item 2B, Cultural Heritage Permit 2152, Site Plan Permit 2153, Conditional Use Permit 21007, the Valencia Building 1502, South El Camino Real. Katie Crockett, Associate Planner, is presenting it, and looks like we're going to enjoy seeing another presentation on the Michael Luna project.
Yes, good evening, commissioners. I do also have a presentation for you this evening. Maybe IT can pull that up. There it is. So this proposed project is a proposal for a new 2-story commercial building at 1502 South El Camino Real. Because it is a new commercial building, it requires the site plan permit and a cultural heritage permit due to the site's location in the architectural overlay. A conditional use permit is also requested to establish shared parking for the proposed uses. Next slide. You can see the project location highlighted. It's also on page 1 of your agenda packet. It's at the southeast corner of South El Camino Real and West Avenida Valencia, abutting the southbound entry ramp to the I-5 freeway. As such, this is a general plan designated gateway area. This portion of South El Camino Real within the architectural overlay requires Spanish colonial revival or other Spanish architecture. Next slide. The project includes demolition of the vacant Top Tune Auto Service building, which you can see here. As you can see, the existing site is all paved with no landscaping to speak of and has been vacant for some time. One of the other things that you'll notice here and the project significantly improves upon is that there's no real designated vehicle entry to the site now. It's all sort of a rolled curb. So that's something that we'll see change. Next slide. The project site is 10,731 square feet. Once the existing building is demolished, the applicant proposes a 5,072 square foot two-story commercial building. The first floor will be a restaurant with a large outdoor dining area, and the second floor will be professional office. Next slide. As you can see on the site plan, the building is located along the El Camino Real Street frontage, close to the intersection. 6 surface parking spaces are located to the side of the building, and a ramp down to the basement level parking spaces is located at the rear of the project site along the alley. The trash enclosure is also incorporated there at the back corner into the rear alley, into the like parking structure wall along the rear alley. So the building location and the location of the parking and trash service are consistent with design guidelines. Staff did notice that a bike rack was not included, which would increase consistency with general plan goals and policies if one were added. Since the site is relatively tight, it's a minor detail, but something that applicants should consider now. Next slide. The landscape plan will need to be modified a bit and resubmitted, demonstrating compliance with the landscape requirements set forth in the zoning ordinance. The landscape plan will be forwarded to the city's landscape architect for further review once corrections are made prior to the Planning Commission meeting. In the report, I mentioned that staff recommends the use of larger palms in the right-of-way. However, upon further review, I did note a couple of other deficiencies in the landscape plan. On the plans, the percentage of lot coverage appears to be calculated incorrectly and doesn't actually meet the code required minimum. So that's something that's not shown in your staff report. Additionally, 60% of the required landscape must utilize California natives. Next slide. The building design is consistent with most general plan goals and policies, as well as the design guidelines. The project displays many of the typical aspects of Spanish colonial revival architecture that we see: smooth white stucco, 2-piece clay tile roofing with random mortar packing, proportional arches, dark wood beams, wrought iron accents. The windows and doors have divided lights. They're sage green in color. Staff recommended to the applicant, though, that the roof equipment screening be integrated better into the roof, consistent with the design guidelines, instead of just utilizing the screen wall. The applicant indicated that this was not able to be incorporated due to height limitations. So staff does recommend that they reconsider and try to redesign the building such that the equipment can be incorporated. But at a minimum, colors and materials need to be called out on the equipment screen, and it should blend with the building architecture as well as possible. So back to building height, staff was unable to determine that the project meets height limitations without the actual height analysis for each roof element as provided in the code. So the applicant will need to provide this to verify that the project is within maximum height limitations. Next slide. So again, staff does recommend that the roof equipment screening be reconsidered or more details provided. The building height needs to be verified according to code requirements, and a bike rack should be incorporated into the site plan. With regard to landscape, staff recommends larger Washingtonia robusta be utilized in the right-of-way to be more consistent with the shoreline project across the street and to blend better with existing mature Washingtonias along El Camino Real. The landscape coverage should be correctly calculated on the plans and increased to meet development standards, and the amount of California natives should be increased to meet code requirements. That concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions. Staff has not received any public comment on the project design, but the applicant team headed up by architect Michael Luna, as you mentioned, are on the call. And I'm sure Michael might like to say a few words about the project.
Thank you, Katie. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you, Michael.
Okay, that's a good start. So I just wanted to make a few comments about how we arrived at this design and how we arrived at the site layout. One of the most overriding concerns and features on this project was the fact that we had a pretty significant freeway off-ramp, right across the street from this intersection, and vehicular traffic movement has been studied a very long time around this site against several different proposals through the years, and unfortunately nothing, or fortunately for us, nothing stuck in terms of a previous design. So first and foremost, what I had to do with this is to respond to that off-ramp and not create anything in terms of egress or ingress that would create problems for that Caltrans intersection. So that was a big deciding influence on how we approached the project. Fortunately, it allowed us to charge up the corner, what I call charge up the corner. We were able to get a prominent architectural feature right on the corner of the intersection by moving the circulation around the alley side and the easternmost side of the property. So it gave us an opportunity to get the building right on the corner, which I think is a real plus. So I wanted to say that, the site does enjoy some ocean views even from the first level towards the west, and henceforth we located our outdoor dining patio on that southwestern corner. And so it gave us the opportunity to let the building kind of screen the freeway noise. So that was kind of in response to some site influence as well. I apologize, Katie, but the roof height analysis was on our first submittal to you. It was on the plans. It hasn't changed, but somehow it didn't get printed on the second submittal. Indeed, we ran the math. It is something we did look at, and it is within height under the 33 feet. With regard to landscape percentage, unfortunately, we got hit with the accessible path to the trash receptacles that wiped out quite a bit of landscaping on that side, and I see we didn't work to get it replaced. But I have ideas on how to get it back without influencing our site. I see there's some areas that weren't credited or weren't planted yet. So I think we can meet. We're about 150 square feet short. I think we could pull that off. But I did want to ask Katie, hopefully you can allow us to utilize some permanent landscape planters and pots and so forth, and get credit for that on our courtyard.
Yes.
Okay, so So with that, I'm sure we can meet the landscape requirement. I can tell you that we're within the height. I do want to talk about the mechanical roof well. Anytime I do a mechanical roof well, I want it to blend in and hide as much as possible. We've got a strict requirement to screen mechanical equipment. We've got to have a roof well. And the best way that I know how to create a roof well is to slope roof lines up against it to minimize the exposure and visibility of the roof well as much as possible. We can talk further about that. I tried to keep it simple. On my first submittal, I did have a kind of a crown detail around the perimeter of that roof well. Staff had concerns with it, so we just simplified it. The best thing about this style of architecture is the more simple it is, the better, particularly with this Ole Hansen style. So it's clean stucco, just running around that roof well and being covered as much as possible with Spanish style roof lines. The other thing that is first, and that is so important, is we have a gateway site here. We tried to put forward the best Spanish architecture that we think would fit here. That's my opening comments.
Thank you, Michael. Katie, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay, I will close presentation portion, open it to public comment, and I believe Katie had indicated there's no comments at this time from the public. So we will close that portion and open up for discussion. And so I know, Michael, this is for Michael Luna. You weren't far enough into the project yet to know what kind of kitchen is going to be required, etc. One of the problems with these darn mechanical wells is you can't get sometimes the hood exhausts anywhere near any of your ventilation equipment on the building. And being dead center, it's going to make your kitchen design pretty tough. Have you run across anything that looks like it's insurmountable, or do you think you can accommodate it? Because you may be losing square footage, particularly on the second floor with some pretty substantial duct chases, etc.
Yeah, so we did consider on the first floor where we anticipate the cook line being what seems to be making the most sense preliminarily. And that seems to be in the what I'll call the northeast corner of the project. And so we did already accommodate, at least on the roof plan, a chimney to allow for, and you can see that on the.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, and that's what that's for. That's for exhaust hood from a potential kitchen. We think that that's where it'll end up preliminarily. We've planned for it there. We think that's the best place for it. So we anticipate some exhaust there. And that gives us a little more distance away from the roof well. The roof well, indeed, you're absolutely right, has to be, in terms of any intake air and other types of mechanical systems, yes, that exhaust needs to be 10 feet away from any intake air and away from most of the equipment on the roof. So that kind of help accommodate that, placing that there. So we have thought about that. And yes, that will take a shaft, a little, some shaft out of some square footage of the second floor.
Okay, that was just to get things started. Let's see, who would like to step between Michael and Jen? Who would like to step up and make comment?
I start. I have a few simple questions for the staff. For the circulation, if someone drive drives on El Camino Real northbound, they are allowed to make a left into the parking lot, are they?
Yes.
It's going to be off from that left lane, left turn lane, but that's okay.
Yes. We did have Nestor in the traffic division review this, and he initially had some comments, but those had been resolved. We're also having Caltrans review it. They are still reviewing it as of my last update today. So we'll also have comments from them, but as far as our local traffic, we didn't have any comments.
Is there any concern that people would try or attempt to make a U-turn at the intersection at El Camino Real and Valencia, and they would have failed to make that U-turn?
I don't know if that was considered in the traffic review. I can find out from the traffic division.
The applicant proposed to the basement parking is exit only. Is that from the city requirement?
I think that's more of a circulation thing. Perhaps Michael can speak to why that choice was made.
Zen, could you repeat the question, please?
I wonder why people use the basement garage is exit only. In other words, you're not allow people to come onto Valencia and make a turn onto the alley and enter the basement parking. I wonder what's the reason of that.
Yes, so what we want to try to avoid is for someone getting off the freeway, coming across El Camino Real and making a left turn into the alley. We want to reduce that circulation because if that gets backed up there, that'll back up into the intersection. So our thinking to provide the least amount of impact to that intersection is to bring all ingress to the site at El Camino Real with a right turn only into with an entrance only off of El Camino Real. We think that will create and minimize any traffic backing up into the intersection of the off-ramp.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, Jim?
Yeah, I like this project. I like this a lot. This is a sophisticated solution to this site methodology constraint. And I think from the architecture style point of view, it's a slam dunk. I don't have any problem with that. And I enjoy looking at it. The staff does make good comments on the building height. As we know, this area, we should use the original grade as a basis for building height measurement. I wonder if we have the historical record of original grade to be used as a basis for the height calculation. Also, since we don't have a survey map here, but I look at the faded layer on the engineering map, and I can tell that the elevation number used on the section elevation do not match the survey map. The elevation at the street corner is probably about 215 above sea level. I'm looking at 168, 167 on the elevation. I don't know where that number comes from. There's also comment from the staff about the freeway height. And those are the information we'd like to have so we can ascertain that the building does conform to the building height limit. So that's assuming it is everything is okay, I think. Regarding the corner tower, if it exceeds the height limit ever so slightly, I'd like to see a horizontal line showing how much the tower exceeds the height limit. My general inclination is that for a landmark tower, especially as an open structure, not even enclosed for the use. I would support an exception if that's the case, if it's not too much into the height limit. Other things, let me see, there's one more item. Parking, shared parking analysis. That's something I strongly favor along this corridor. Katie, you said you need more information to come to the same conclusion of the parking analysis. What type of information are you looking for?
So they've actually already provided some updates, but so the information specifically that I was concerned about was how they, first of all, how they justified only 16 seats on the outdoor patio, because it is a very large patio area. And if they go over 16 seats, they do need to add that in to the parking demand. So that was one piece of it. And let me see. Let me just pull up my.
But they don't have a floor plan, or they don't have the layout or seat plan of the restaurant. So I think all we can do is put a condition to limit the number of seats.
Right, and we will. I just was concerned that that's not really sustainable or a very
enforceable.
Right.
Okay.
So I just wanted a little bit more information on that, and then as well.
I'm losing you.
Yes, my computer's been freezing. It's kind of sad because I'm actually in the office at City Hall, but I don't, I guess, have a very good internet connection right now. So as far as other comments on the parking study, the number of parking spaces provided was just somewhat concerning because the ULI parking rates are only one methodology of calculating it. And given the surrounding, like, largely residential development, parking overflow into these areas could negatively impact those residential uses. So we recommend perhaps additional modeling like ITE or things like that that would just help support the findings for the shared parking approval.
Okay. Well, we will probably have to leave that to the planning commission, but okay. Another question is trash pickup. The alley is only 20 feet wide, but there are other people's trash enclosure there. So is there any issue with the trash pickup for them to turn around?
No, CR&R reviewed this and they said that they could service it.
For the landscaping, the tree size, you recommended to increase the tree size. My recollection is typically we ask for 15-gallon box. Of course, for the palm tree, it's a little different. What is the commensurable size to 15-gallon?
Well,
you want a larger size, and how large? Do you have a number you can recommend?
Well, so for example, when we reviewed the Shoreline Dental project just a few weeks ago, so you may remember the discussion, there was concern that those trees were not large enough expressed by the design review subcommittee, and those that were called out on the plans were actually 20-foot brown trunk height. So it's not to say that those street trees aren't meeting a minimum requirement. It's just, as I said, because they would better match the trees across the way, and knowing that this design review subcommittee had concerns about that a few weeks ago when we discussed this, that just seemed to make sense. So I purposely didn't put a number in there because I think anything over 10 gets us a little bit closer to what Shoreline is doing, and then we scale up to the mature trees that are there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. My last comment back to the parking. I think if the planning commission decides that the project needs more parking, and then there's an easy solution that the applicant can simply extend the basement. That's all.
Okay, Michael?
Yes, thank you. Well, that's a good segue with the palms. So Katie, we definitely have some continuity on El Camino Real with the Mexican fan palms. And I'm wondering what the applicant's position was or rationale for using something that's so different. Do you have any insight on that, or maybe Michael could speak to that?
They're not different. Washingtonia robusta are Mexican fan palms.
No, I'm talking about the king palms that are proposed by the applicant and why they would propose that
So
rather.
the street trees are Washingtonias. There's I could be misremembering. I'd have to flip to it. I think there's only one king palm that's proposed that's on the subject site.
So you're just recommending that the palm that's proposed be a Mexican fan palm?
No, I was recommending that the ones that are already Mexican fan palms be larger because they're street trees. And so I was looking for that continuity. I did not recommend that that the king palm be modified, but that's something that we can discuss.
Okay, and that's on, yeah, okay, gotcha. Thank you for that. Okay, so the trees that are in the public right of way are just the mature, and they're going to exist. The Mexican fan palms are there, they're going to stay, or
no, those are new. There aren't, I don't think, any trees
yeah, I didn't think so. Okay.
In the right of way at this point.
Okay. So you're just merely looking for something consistent with what was proposed and I think ultimately approved over at Shoreline across the way.
Correct.
Okay, good. That's what I need to know. Okay, well, since we're on the topic of the landscaping again, can't help it, but this is, before I say anything about the landscaping, I want to say that this is a really nice project. I share Commissioner Wu's perspective on this. Good to look at. I think the trees on Avenida Valencia, there are 3 that are proposed as pineapple guavas. I think I love them. It's one of my favorite trees in the right location. I'm wondering if the applicant would be open to considering something different, a non-fruiting tree. I think that that particular tree, though it's pretty and it, with a lot of help, can look like the renderings, but generally has a trunk characteristic that's not as consistent as we would like to see, and as depicted in the elevations, that's more like something like a crepe myrtle. A multi-trunk crepe myrtle would be a little more consistent with that. I wonder if the applicant would be open to doing something that doesn't fruit, especially something that doesn't drop fruit that can be slippery, you know, on the right of, or on the walkway there. It does, that particular fruit tree does produce a larger fruit that if stepped on could be a slipping hazard. So Michael, what do you think about that?
I don't want anything that drops and creates a slipping hazard. Let's reselect. I'm sorry, Mike Bunganic, our landscape architect, I talked to him earlier. I thought he was going to be with us. And I don't know, I see a Michael here. I don't know if that's Michael Bunganic, but I don't see that he's muted. But I was trying to get our landscape on here with us. But I'm sure that we can reselect that, no problem.
Okay, great. Maybe look at something like a multi-trunk crepe myrtle. That'd be great. this is an interesting discussion because we have a committee discussion section and we have interaction with the applicant and staff, but I'm not seeing a landscape plan that shows any sort of lighting. Usually you'd see a lighting plan or a separate lighting plan. Is there anything that is being considered right now for lighting?
So we did talk about that. I know I talked about that with Michael after the first review of this, sorry, staff's first review. You have not seen it before. And because of the size of the surface, the working surface, they, I guess, aren't required to add parking lot lighting. The sconces that are on the building would serve that purpose. So it would just be the building sconces. Michael Luna, can you correct me if I'm wrong?
Well, you're right. The parking lot just doesn't seem large enough for some large obtrusive light standards. We feel we can light the parking lot adequately with surface mounted light fixtures on that east elevation. We may indeed also introduce along the pathway to the trashway there on the other side some recessed step lighting to wash the floor or that walkway of the path to the garage area. But we think that that's all it needs. Now, in addition to that, however, I do like the idea of some, so we're talking about general parking lot lighting right now.
Yeah.
But I would like to see some accent lighting on the landscaping, light up that crepe myrtle and some other mood lighting to accentuate the landscaping and the building. I'm all for that.
Okay, I think that'd be a great idea. It does, that is where the freeway exit ramp enters to the city there. It's going to be really the first thing that a visitor would see, coming into the city off the freeway. And I think architecturally it's amazing. It's thought myself at amazing, but it's really well designed. It's going to look great. That lighting is going to be important. You've got lighting on the front elevation, but on the tower, but nothing on the other side. So to your point, maybe, to balance that, to have 3 nice uplighting, uplights under the crepes or whatever you end up using would be nice. It'd be a nice way to balance it and really just make that pop. And you'd get some overflow onto the building, even from some of that lighting you could. And that'd be really great way to highlight some of the architecture there.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that would be great. And I was also looking at that back wall at the rear elevation. I know that's where the alley sort of terminates there naturally. If you're coming down the alley, you have to cut up across Valencia and then you enter in, and there's going to be a restaurant there. So folks are going to utilize that as access point. And I don't know how this could pencil out, but you might consider doing some cutouts in that wall back there to soften it a little bit. You could even pop in some landscape there, maybe a creeping rosemary, maybe even some mood lighting inside the wall. I mean, it could be really amazing.
Are you talking about along the alley?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why I put that out there is other projects, recent projects along the front El Camino Real, one recently completed. There was a lot of attention on the alleyway and the landscape area there and stepping it back. You don't have the same characteristics and scale, not even close, but if we're talking about scale, that would be, I think, a reasonable way to add additional landscaping and to soften that wall a bit, because there are going to be folks that are going to look out their window and see it. So there will be impacted people there.
The issue that I have there, and I love your idea, Mike, but the anything I do there to introduce landscaping means I got to move that wall in further into the driveway ramp going down. And engineering's, well, they want that thing, it's a one-way traffic and they want 14, they want 16. And it's too much. It's too much. It should be 13 or 14. And so I'm fighting the width of that that ramp going down and trying to, I'd love to move that in slightly. Maybe I can talk engineering into letting that ramp be 13 instead of 14, which will open up a whole foot for the type of planting that you're describing along the alley.
That can be done. I think that would be an enhancement. I'm concerned about the width, share your concern. But if you can do that, this is a great opportunity. You're doing this, this is a raw land. This will be like, you design it first, you don't have to adapt to anything. You can make it what you want. If you can get that kind of a width that works, that might be it'd be good for those folks that are going to be, directly across and impacted by this.
Gotcha.
So I was also wondering about, Katie, we, in the renderings where there's a, that classic red sidewalk is depicted there. And if I missed it, I apologize, but I don't see a discussion on what's going to happen with the sidewalk.
Yeah, I purposely left that out at this time because I'm still in discussions with Gabriel on exactly the correct path to take on that. It sounds like we are eliminating that from Shoreline and from this project, but we're trying to nail down exactly where that direction had come from, because Gabriel's recollection was that it was in the pier bowl or near the pier that direction was given, and so we're trying to verify that that was meant to be for all areas outside of the T-zone.
Okay. Well, with that said, there's definitely, you're going to find a lot of history on that. It's been a discussion point for many, many years, and it's part of the original vision of the founder. And there was an intention to have some continuity there. It's become a hodgepodge. It's been hard to manage. And I think in terms of keeping things fair and consistent, especially in this segment of El Camino Real, we should apply the same standards that we've applied recently. This will be number 3 of 3 larger projects. Both have received support for non-colored sidewalk. And I think, unless the applicant opposes that, we should start looking at consistency and maybe more of another discussion, have more of a global discussion as far as policy goes, so that we're not having the same discussion over and over again every time because there's a potential conflict somewhere. We should fix that.
And that's what we're doing offline as staff.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not discussed in this report, because I don't have anything concrete to report in terms of global policy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a cost, in and of itself, it's probably minor in the grand scheme of things for the developer, but there is a cost and associated with the integral color, depending on what they, are going to do. So just straight concrete with the broom to city standard is probably less than something colored that you have to manage over time and maintain. So I would definitely like to see something consistent with the most recent projects we've approved. Yeah.
This is Mike Beganic. Can you guys hear me now?
Oh yeah, Mike Beganic is our landscape architect.
Yes, guys and council members, I've been on the phone here for 2 hours. I'm sorry. I finally looked down and it looked like I was unmuted. So I was muted, so I hit the unmute button, but I've been here the whole time. Just chiming in really quick, and I'll make this very, very quick because I know everybody's been on the phone for a couple hours now. I have no problems with the 3 Washingtonias from 10 foot of brown trunk to 20 foot for those 3. That's not a problem. The courtyard for the patio, outdoor dining area, we can certainly put several pots in that location to help us get to our requirement of landscape area. I have not a problem. We'll find a home for a back. Maybe it's just to the left of the trash enclosure, that little gray area of concrete. Michael, maybe that's where it goes. I don't know if that's too close to the driveway, but I'll work with you to find a location for that. I do like the idea of the crepe myrtles, but I'm having a real problem with the 60% of California natives. our plant material palette is very limited, very small planting areas. And we got on site, we only have we have 4 trees, 2 palms and 2 trees in the pod, and then the 3 trees along Valencia. And then we have shrubs and ground covers. And to achieve 60% of the plant materials would require some major changing of plant species here. Is that the direction that I need to proceed down?
Well, if I may just chime in on that. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
I think that your space compromised. You're gonna have to kind of work with what you have.
Right.
That was a suggestion that I know you heard, just couldn't chime in because your mic or whatever was happening over there. You have an
Right.
opportunity for some additional landscape. You can only do as much as you can do, right? And then it goes to discretionary review at a later date, and then we'll
Okay.
decide on that. But the fruiting trees that you have proposed are beautiful. They are, but not ideal for that location, in my opinion, for the reasons I had mentioned. And whatever it is you come up with, your renderings look great. So a plant material that is more consistent with that. There's other, you can pick other things, but using a multi could help you. And Katie, I don't know if there's a credit we give here for multis, like maybe with the palms, they get an extra credit for a multi-trunk palm tree. I don't know. Is that something we can consider?
So they actually have enough trees and they don't need credit for more trees.
Okay.
Like they mentioned, they're, I think, about 150 square feet short in overall landscape area. But I think what the landscape architect was asking about is specifically that 60% native requirement, California native requirement. And
Yeah.
it is, I agree, it's limiting, but it's in the code. So I'm not sure how to get around that from a discretionary point of view, other than to apply for a variance. I can talk with Gabriel about that to see what we could potentially do, but that's not a design guideline. It's in the municipal code.
Okay.
I understand that it's in the code. I'm just with California native. There are some nice California natives, but I don't think that the California chaparral look is appropriate for this kind of high class building. I don't want this landscaping to look like the wall in front of Target with the California native landscaping. It belongs out in the backcountry. But I'll do my best to try to substitute trees and shrubs and ground cover with California natives, but it's going to be it'll be a different look. But I'll give it the old college try.
Yeah, your idea about the pots, I think, is a good one. You're gonna, I'm hoping you're trying to create some ambiance at night with the lighting, and you want a certain feel, and that's what's going to be the draw for folks visiting your restaurant.
Right.
You overlight it. If you overdo things, or if it's too sparse, I mean, you can miss the mark. And so I get what you're doing here. The design is very clear, and it looks great. I mean, it really is a nice, just a really nice design. So your landscaping, you're going to have to, work with staff on that, and any, variance, if that's what it is, or something that's handled through the, use permit itself. It's on it, it's your burden to figure that out. But there's lots of different choices. California natives, Bob, I remember the guy's last name, but he published a book. He was out of Cal Poly, or
Bob Perry.
Yeah, his book is, and I have it somewhere. It's filled with all kinds of great. I'm sure you have it, but gosh, that was my go-to for years for anything.
Sure.
Might be something in there you might want to thumb through, but.
Well, we could certainly, those two trees in the parking area that are currently called out as Tristania. The reason why they were called out Tristania is because that is probably one of the best parking lot trees for a very limited amount of dirt to be planted in. We could take those things out like they did over at the Ralphs and plant some oak trees in there. Take those Tristanias and just change them to like Virginia oaks or something like that. That's a possibility. We could change the variety of those two king palms to Catalina ironwood or something like that, or another oak tree. That would help us get our California native count up a little bit. And I think that I was talking to Michael, I think we're going to introduce some planters along that face of the building that used to have a planting edge. Right now, the asphalt comes all the way up to the building. I believe we have enough room to put some glass reinforced fiber or GFRC planter, terracotta type planters next to the building in a few areas. And if we're short on the square footage, we certainly could run some banding across the parking drive aisle with some turf block and introduce some ground cover within the turf block. The longevity of survivability of planting in turf blocks in a driveway isn't very long, but it would certainly meet our minimum requirements. What are your thoughts on that?
You can also make the triangular wall on Valencia of the garage, make it a green wall.
On the alley?
No, on Valencia.
On Valencia, there's a little retaining wall that's along the sidewalk.
Along the side, not just a little retaining wall, but the wall underneath the deck.
Oh, I see.
You can put some vine there.
Right, but would I be able to use the horizontal, or excuse me, use the vertical calculation of a green screen and apply that square footage to the landscape?
Yeah, we did it before, but I think you need to do a real green, vertical garden type of thing. I think we did it before to give a 50% of credit.
I see.
And
I will go ahead.
Katie,
I
go
just
ahead.
have to double check on that. My recollection was that's only applicable in the mixed use district, but certainly I'll follow up with you in an email definitively what the code says.
Okay, well, thank you very much for reminding us.
Yeah, thank you.
If I may have a question, Katie, we have a really wide parkway along El Camino Real and a large planting area there. It's off of our site, but it's the public way. And we're going to end up having to landscape that anyway. Can we get any credit for that?
And Michael, that is 384 square feet of landscaped parkway.
Wow.
Yeah, it is significant. And the code says no, you can't get credit for that, but certainly something that we can look into depending on what direction we could go with this, whether you would actually need a variance and whether we can make the findings for that. Having that landscape adjacent certainly probably helps. So we can look into that, but per the code, no.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in there. We've been bantering the word variance around a whole bunch here, and I don't think that's the right word. Maybe an exception, but a variance is awfully tough to get and justify.
That's right, Katie.
Adequate to hold the building.
Katie, if you can do some research to see if the exception can be applied. Variance is a very high bar. It needs a demonstration of hardship, and we will very, very careful of granting variance.
Handled through the use permit process.
Yes, and it's something you can request. Let's see, who had the floor? I think the landscape architect had the.
I'm Mike. I'm still here. I'm listening.
Oh, you're just responding to the comments. I'll just close, Bart, with that, and also, to to the architects that are on the project, the other architects on the applicant side. You know, there's a myriad of things you could do California native wise. I don't know if you looked at a Fortunii instead of, I think the king palm is on that list as well, but maybe a multi, different things that would help the argument if there's deficiencies in any area. I like the ground cover, the permeable surface, but to your point, you know, if there's a lot of traffic, it may be hard to maintain that. I mean, there's some pretty hardy, you know, ground cover you can use within those open spaces, the pavers, but the failure rate's pretty high with vehicles. So maybe the walking areas or off the side of the walking areas, you could do that as sort of an accent. I've seen it different ways. You can squeeze out percentages, but I don't know if it'll get you there. It's making your reasonable effort is key, and you know that being in development. And then you go in and roll the dice and see where it lands in the public arena. But you make the best effort. If you over design it, you might kill it. It's a fine line you walk. But I think, you know, on its face now, you're substantially there. It looks like there's some obvious places you could make some improvements. And so
Okay.
I'll have Mark.
Well,
I have one just question.
Okay.
I just have a question. You folks were talking about the pedestrian sidewalk. Down the street, Michael Luna, on the Santiago building, you put just natural gray concrete sidewalks in that project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. When you sent me the base maps of your architectural plans, this cross-hatching that you see on our plan was part of your CAD files that you sent me. And I don't know if you were thinking that this would be those a concrete subbase with the city approved concrete tile, like you'd see in front of a historical residence. But if we could go with there's just the broom finished concrete, that would be nice to know right now, or do we need to wait until Katie researches that a little more?
Yeah, that's not something that the design review can bless or not bless. That's something that the city staff will have to determine what the options actually are.
Okay. So
Katie, may I say something on that to Katie? We have, as you're looking at that, we have two other new projects. One I think was just approved for the dentist across the street, the medical building.
Yes.
And I don't know if the other project has submitted officially yet or not, across the street from Valencia from us.
No.
No, they have not. So my point is that it's got, that whole intersection really has got to all tie together. Being a gateway site, they're all gateway sites there, our three properties, and that's just got to all tie together really well.
I agree.
Yeah, that's all. That's just my 2 cents.
Very good. Well, thank you. I'll go ahead and jump in. One thing I want to caution everybody who's been looking at a footer here or there for landscaping. There's a lot of equipment in that planter that's along Valencia.
Right.
Fire and drainage and whatnot. So beware that there's going to be some things that aren't as pretty as we would like, but are absolutely mandatory to have. And you can't screen them, so you can't see them. So want everybody to be aware of that. I think great concept for the project, Michael. Once again, your team did a great job of playing Tetris to shoehorn this thing in here. Nothing's been said about acoustics on this, Katie. We're adjacent to residential property. We have outdoor dining. And what kind of impact that's going to have, because it's certainly going to be a item of discussion. And if we can head it off early on in the project, we're better off. So Michael, has anything been done on that yet?
Yes, we looked at that. We are, let's do the math. That nearest apartment building across the alley is 25 feet to our property line. And currently we have a 14-foot setback to the dining area. So 25 and 14 is 39, I believe.
Pretty close.
Pardon me?
Pretty close.
Yeah. So we've got a really nice horizontal distance there. Additionally, we designed, if you look at our perspective on Avenida Valencia or the, well, actually probably to look at the east, let's see what it is. It's the the rear elevation, the alley. In the edge of our dining patio, I've designed a massive fireplace to help be a buffer. There has been some talk and a suggestion about maybe putting some plexiglass on either side in those small openings on either side of the fireplace. I think that'll help. But one thing I will say for sure is that the noise and decibels coming from the freeway are going to be equal or greater than I think what a dining facility would generate.
That's the answer I was expecting to hear. That's great. But it will be a point of discussion, and you're right. I mean, they pretty much walled off the freeway on the overpass and all, and your building protects your patio wonderfully from the freeway noise. But the adjacent property, if I'm not mistaken, Katie, is currently 1 story right off the patio, but it could be 2-story.
Across the alley is a 2-story apartment building.
Is the one right adjacent to you, though, up against Valencia 2-story?
Yes.
1-story section.
It's a 2-story building there. Katie, can you bring up Google Earth?
Well, we don't need to solve it now.
Okay.
It's just I wanted to express our concern. And for the record, Katie, and it should probably be in the minutes, this is not a pedestrian zone, correct?
No, it's not. It's not designated as the pedestrian overlay or central business overlay. As far as the design guidelines go, it's mixed automotive and pedestrian, but not in the actual overlay.
And the reason I bring that up is just so we have a record that the public and we all know that the same standards for this building as far as courtyards off the sidewalk, et cetera, don't really apply in this case. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. I'd have to take that into consideration. No, I don't think it's as important here. Like you mentioned, it's not totally pedestrian, but the design guidelines do call it out as mixed automotive and pedestrian. So we still want to take that into consideration.
Yeah,
but
I just don't want. I think his solution is great. There's decent landscaping in front, and trying to impose some of those standards, I think, would be problematic for this particular solution. So very good. Great job. I think, Michael, the only concern I've got is we're pretty early on in the project. And do you foresee any obstacles, like I'm assuming you're going to have to mechanically ventilate the garage?
Yeah, we are going to have to
how you're going to get that out and all may affect the architecture a little bit. Certainly, if there's more roof-mounted equipment, might or less um, might affect the mechanical space. So I don't want people to start zoning in on that and saying, well, you said it was 12 feet, it's got to be 14 feet, or it's got to be dynamic to be able to pull this off. The only architectural, and it's just a thought on your, what direction would that be? The parking lot elevation
Uh-huh.
in 3.1? What do you think about possibly doing the chimney in a manner that might break up that long fascia? You know, sometimes we'll pull it out a foot or 18 inches, even if it's a phony furring with corbelled at the second floor level, just to shorten that up a little bit.
To shorten the height of the chimney?
No, the length of that fascia along that roof. In other words, so there'd be a piece to the left of the chimney and a piece to the right of the chimney, but it wouldn't cross across the chimney. Your call, it's your design.
Are you talking about flaring the sides of the
Well, I'm
chimney?
just saying, right now your chimney is in line with the wall.
Yes.
If you brought it out, furred it out the depth of the fascia and only went to the second floor level with the chimney and corbelled it in. I think I've seen you do this before on other projects.
Yeah, so that the chimney looks a little cantilevered.
Yeah, throws a little architecture onto that wall, because coming north on the road, that's the first thing you're going to see is that elevation. But
yeah, that would be fun. I don't see why not.
Yeah, and it's your call. That's not a make or break. But I'm in favor of the architecture. There's a lot of little odds and ends. Katie, there's so much that is lacking as far as landscape drawings, etc. Correct? That need to be re-reviewed. Is that correct? Or are we looking at? Let me ask Jen and Michael. Is there information that you still think we need to say design reviews done with this? I don't think we quite have enough yet, do we?
Well,
Jen?
we need a height analysis. We need the height information from the existing grade, from the height analysis exhibits for the roof elements and for the picket line elements. And we need height information from the freeway, and perhaps a section from the freeway or around either way. So those information are requested by the staff, and we don't have it.
Okay, Michael Blackwell, do you see anything similar to those kind of comments that we absolutely need to finalize our review?
I think it could go forward. Commissioner Wu makes, those are important elements, but if addressed properly and standards, when it gets to the next stop, I think it's good. If it's not addressed, we're advisory. You know, we've made our recommendations and that's it. But generally speaking, I don't see any reason why it couldn't go forward. If again, we're advisory. I like the design. I like the way it is right now, and with those improvements we suggested, I'd absolutely love this project. So, yeah.
Okay, Michael Luna, would your schedule be impacted at all if we had to come back so we could review the heights? And because if there is a change and the height isn't what we think it is, there might be modifications that are required. Would that affect your overall schedule, or are we not on the critical path right at the moment?
Well, critical path is critical. This process is taking longer than my client would like, for sure. But you know, we did do the height analysis. It was in the first submittal. The math did add up. There's no way Katie's going to let us go to planning commission if we're out of height compliance. So I've got to prove to her before she schedules us to planning commission.
And she's tough to convince.
You know, so it's not like we'd be having to debate that at planning commission because it either conforms or it doesn't, and it will.
And that, okay, good, because I want to make sure we don't get into a big debate about 6 inches.
Yeah, and as far as landscaping is concerned, gosh, I think we've got a list of some areas here and there where we can add some to meet the requirements, and it's just going to enhance what I think what I think is already a strong direction on the landscaping.
Very good, very good. And I will say that I think this intersection's coming along the one across the way at Tommy's tower is not as close to the corner as this. Nice, but they've got a different tower, so there's a little bit of variation going on. And I think overall, I'm so excited to see this intersection being developed. That,
you know, I'd be really amiss, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna get a little sidetracked here, you know, but something tells me maybe we ought to be considering this mid-century gas station as a historic site. Okay, yeah, this thing is an eyesore. It's been like this forever.
Hold on, that's the family you're talking about now. Come on, man.
I'm sorry, Jason.
My grandfather bought that property in 1951, and it was originally his real estate office before it was a gas station and well before Top Tune. But it is pretty ugly. We do need to change it, yes.
well, if you had a guy who designed that tire shop up El Camino a little ways, that's a nice looking building.
Oh, I did that to the old Jimmy's Tire.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I did that.
Huh, surprise, surprise. I was here when you did that.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm sorry for getting sidetracked. The only thing I just am trying to say is that, darn it, we have a great opportunity to do something with this entrance to Southwest San Clemente.
Okay, the only, I think you've got two, whoop. What do we do here? Can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, my screen went blank, but that's okay. Jen, you were talking about some items. Are you comfortable with moving it forward?
Well, as much as I like this project, and I hate to have surprising on the planning commission, especially if the building height is close to the limit. I know Michael wants to take advantage of all the site has to offer, which all designers should do that. But when we're getting really, really close to that height limit, I don't know if it's the case here. I think it's not. But Katie, you need to confirm that we have the original grade here and use that as a basis. The existing grade is flat, then there's a retaining wall. So we don't know. I hate to get into a big discussion on planning commission about this height limit and
let's make the stipulation
another 2 feet.
Let's make a stipulation, Jen, that we will move it, or that if we move it forward, it has to be absolutely confirmed that the building meets the height standard, the height requirements, because we're not the plan checker that actually has to sign off on that part. But and if there are any architectural changes required to comply with the height standard, it comes back to us.
So we'll leave it to Katie.
That it is proven, correct.
We can do that.
You comfortable with that, Jen?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this important gateway of the city to get another project, and it's wonderfully designed. And I look forward to seeing it to be built.
Oh, thank you all. This is Mike again, the landscape architect. Just a question and for clarification. Do I need to revise the landscape plan and resubmit it before planning commission?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I think so.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
because the
Yeah.
planning commission needs to see that our comments have been responded to,
Okay,
and then it won't necessarily turn into a long discussion. If they see something not responded to, it can go off track.
okay, very good. I plan on meeting with Michael tomorrow or Friday, Michael, or Monday, and we'll talk about what our game plan is. One last question, and I'll let everybody go. Can I put a bicycle rack in the basement?
I don't know the answer to that.
I ride bicycles. I don't like going to a basement to store my bicycles.
My only concern is that are there handicapped bicycle riders? Well, yeah, there are, particularly now with electric ones. That it should probably be relatively close to the accessible route,
Okay.
which there is no way to get accessible from the basement without an elevator. So, and we don't have that.
Right. Okay, Michael, you and I are gonna have to put our heads together and figure out where the best place is, because I can't figure out where it would go.
Between you and I, Mike, we can work it out.
Okay, we'll do that.
And also, as
go ahead.
Commissioner Blackwell suggested, the drive aisle probably has to be concrete and hard concrete, but the parking space could be some paver, which is permeable, which isn't landscaping, but it will improve the landscaping requirement because it reduces stormwater runoff.
True.
Yeah, I think we'd, if we're so close, we can look at exceptions and I don't want to get too tricky just to meet an.
I will note that I do believe that pavers will be over a structural deck for the concrete basement. So, I don't know if that affects the structural integrity of the structural deck by losing thickness in your structural deck.
Design development.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I think we're concurrence that Katie, this can tentatively be moved along with the understanding that the height limitation and landscape issues will be addressed prior to it coming to Planning Commission. Anything else you want to add to that, Jen or Michael?
Not this, Michael.
Michael Blackwell.
No, I don't have anything to add, Bart.
Let me review. Let me see the staff recommendation here. Okay, add bike racks to the site plan, yes. Consider larger size for speed trees, yes. Incorporate roof mounted mechanical screening. We already talked about that. Michael, your roof well is deep enough to screen all the equipment that you expect, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, because we don't want to see in the future you have equipment that's taller than the parapet, and so okay, we will add a roof screen, then it exceeds the height limits and those types of things.
No, I don't want that. I don't want that.
Provide a building height analysis. We already covered that. Then ensure provided parking is sufficient. Okay, we didn't talk about the parking. I already gave my comments. I think if parking becomes an issue, the basement could be extended, but I don't see it happen. But do you guys think
we can make the recommendation? I mean, we can make the simple recommendations. We'd like to see them comply with the parking, but the ultimate decision on that is at Planning Commission level, and they could make that condition of approval also. Okay, so
that's all.
Katie, do you have any questions so you know what you need to work with the applicant on?
No, I think I got everything. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think your guys are on the right track.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for your compliments on our effort, and we'll be working to sharpen it up.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay, then next item is new business. Do we have any new business, Stephanie?
No, we do not have any additional business items.
Do you have any business they'd like to have? The only new business for, let's see. I already talked, I think you agreed that we're now complying with saying what applicants agreed to and didn't, so we don't need to put that in. Any oral and written communications?
No, we have not received any additional communications.
Okay. We'll hear a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to move that we adjourn to the next regular meeting of the Design Review Subcommittee that will be held on Wednesday, February 24th, 2021 at 4 p.m. via teleconference.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Blackwell, second by Wu. We'll take a head count. Jen?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And I will vote aye, passes 3-0.
Awesome.
Thank you again for a good meeting. We got some exciting stuff happening in the city right at the moment. That's great.
I know, right? This is great. Love it. Love it. Good projects.
Yeah, there's a lot of projects on South El Camino Real.
Yeah, well,
Good job, Katie.
Michael kind of let the cat out of the bag that possibly the other intersection or the other corner of that intersection is being looked at.
No, the applicant was already aware of that.
No, but we weren't.
Oh,
Yeah, what's happening?
it was a preliminary application for a mixed use project, residential and commercial on the first floor.
Okay, that's what it's zoned for, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's also the El Camino Real and Valencia corner lot, which is used for Christmas tree.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's
When
fantastic.
everybody's buying man-made Christmas trees.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So we have one more vacant lot, which is next to the now Shoreline Dental office.
Let's pool our money. Money's right now.
Between Tommy and the 76 gas station.
Yep.
Any proposal there?
Not yet.
When we met with on the dental one, they've been talking with the applicant, and it didn't sound like they had any plans in the near future.
Right.
I was up in Stockton this last week, going up again this next week, but I enjoyed a Dutch Brothers coffee, and it was apparently that's a big thing up there. It's pretty common. It was fantastic, and they shoehorn these little drive-throughs on these tiny properties. Maybe we can get a Dutch Brothers over there on that property.
Michael, where did you see them?
Up in Stockton. Up in Stockton.
Stockton. I saw them everywhere in Oregon.
Yeah, it's not a SoCal thing right now, but I'd never heard of it before. And somebody said, you have got to try this coffee. And I did and loved it. So very popular. It would cause a backup, wouldn't be, I mean, realistically, probably wouldn't work.
Right. It's a drive-through coffee shop. Yeah.
Yeah, they were able to shoehorn a lot in there. I was amazed.
Let's let staff go home.
Yeah.
Although I think Stephanie's already at home. Katie's the one that's locked up at the office.
Yeah.
With no internet. Yeah. That's not cool that you don't have internet at City Hall. What's up with that?
Hey,
Well, I have it, and usually I do these on my iPad, but I forgot it today. So I don't know if it's just my computer or what, but
tech support went home. Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.